Mick, let's start with you. Let's just get your kind of take. You kind of see it on both sides. You have the left, running around with their hair on fire saying, this is an absolute economic catastrophe. You have the right saying, no, this was all kind of part of the plan and strategy to begin with. So, where's the reality here for the viewers?
Yeah, I don't believe for a second it was actually part of the plan. I don't think that makes much difference whether or not it was or not. We are where we are right now. What do we know? We know that there was a pivot, there was a change of direction, whatever you want to call it. But we did answer an important question, I think, in the last 24 hours, Chris, which is what's the purpose of the tariffs? We had some of the Trump administration saying the purpose was to have tariffs forever. To have a be-all and end-all tariffs for the sake of tariffs so that we could use them to help rebuild the American middle class through American manufacturing. We had another group of folks in the White House saying, no, tariffs are for leverage. And what we're going to use them for is leverage to get better trade deals and help build back the American middle class that way. That is the camp that won. By the way, I put China in a different category. But that's the camp that won here in the last 24, 48 hours. We now know why the tariffs are there. They're there to help us negotiate better trade deals. And I think that's a move in the right direction.
And the markets are tanking, Mick. I mean, how do you respond to that for the American people that see their retirements count eroding?
Look, I watched it myself. I think today was a really bad day. They did not expect this, I don't think, today in the White House. Clearly, damage has been done to the American economy in the last 7 days that just saying, oh, never mind, we're going to delay for 90 days doesn't fix. Trump has to do something now. They've talked a lot. They have to deliver something. They have to deliver a good trade deal. They have to deliver something positive for the markets, something positive for the American people. They've got probably, a couple weeks to be able to do that, but people are not listening anymore. They're looking for action.
And Geraldo, I want to go to you here. I mean, now we're looking at, as Mick just brought up, the next 90 days. It's going to be very critical for the administration, right? So I always say you're one of the best prognosticators out there. Where do you give me a quick assessment of what has happened over the past 5 days? Is this a catastrophe? Are we breaking? Is the American people going to hold on to this? And where does it go for the next 90? What does the administration have to do to either regain that trust that this strategy is a winnable strategy? And what are the pitfalls going to be if they don't actually renegotiate some of these international trade deals?
Yesterday, Governor, I was saying that it's better to be lucky than to be smart. I thought that President Trump was extremely lucky. He had a situation where he made the world believe the United States, America first, was going to take on the entire planet, including China, even though China was the main antagonist, even though China is the main cause of the problem of imbalance in trades and so forth. It was the President Trump and America against China and the whole rest of the world. It seemed an absurd notion. Then the president announces the pause in the tariffs against anybody but China, and it became apparent to me that he had done a bait and switch. The president had ambushed China. That instead of the United States against China and the rest of the world, it was the United States and the rest of the world against China. So I thought that everything was on the road, even though it was very, very rocky, even though the 47 Trump has had a very rocky road. 45 also did when I was closer to the president in those days. But watching him now, it doesn't seem to me, Governor, that President Trump, it was clear with what happened with the market today. It doesn't seem to me that he has a cogent plan. It doesn't seem to me as if there is a real method to his madness. I hope there is, and I like when I see the market going up. But then people are, watching their savings erode on a day like today, and it seems so volatile. It seems so unhinged or untied to reality. I believe that we're in a situation now where nobody in this entire country knows where we're headed right now. And I think it's very important that the president give the impression that he knows that he has a plan and that it'll settle down. We'll get to life as we know.
Absolutely. Look, speaking as someone who used to sit in a corner office, you got to instill confidence at all costs, especially when you have these shaky markets. So let's go back to Mick a little bit. When we talk about is there a plan, is there a strategy, let's talk about how we got here a little bit. Now, Mick, you worked in the Trump White House. You worked with the president, with Navarro. There's even some stories coming out on Politico just in the past hour or so that Navarro is kind of on his way out. But, everything from the formula to putting tariffs on islands with penguins, it doesn't seem like this was thought through, or they didn't actually, kind of double check what they were doing. How do these discussions happen? You've been there. You've been behind the scenes. Bring us into how some of these conversations evolve.
I'm still stunned that Peter has a job in the White House, but I take that all the way back to 2018 when he got caught, with his imaginary friend in his academic papers and so forth. But be that as it may, he's there. I think what you saw this week was a change in the balance of power. Last week, Peter Navarro was sort of the leading voice on trade. He was the really hardcore guy, tariffs for the sake of tariffs, et cetera. And from what I hear, Howard Lutnick was sort of in that camp that over the weekend, when they saw some weakness in the bond market, I understand there's a very weak 3-year Treasury issuance earlier in the week, that Lutnick sort of came over to join Scott Bessent and say, you know what? We can't do what Peter wants to do. We're going to blow up the American economy. Let's take a different tack here. I think that's the change here. I think that's how we got here, was that Peter Navarro and the folks that think like him were ascendant. They were they had the president's ear, and they were winning the argument. I think that is what changed. Now you're going to see a much more nuanced, much more sophisticated approach to trade. Go back to what we did in Trump 1.0. We had tariffs in the first administration. We didn't blow up the economy. We didn't have huge inflation and so forth. What did we do? We put on tariffs and we gave exemptions where it made some sense. I agree that with Geraldo, that what we should have done in the first place is sort of match up the whole world against China. I don't think we're there right now. I don't think the whole rest of the world trusts us just yet. We got some work to do there. But again, they chose not to do that again this time.
So, Geraldo, we all know that there's no doubt Donald Trump is watching live right now. What's your advice to the president going forward?
Mr. President, please project an image of responsibility, not improv. We don't need an economic policy that looks like it was written on the back of an envelope. We need real process. We need people that are professional, that are reasonable, that are contained and intelligent in their remarks, and be on the same page with everyone else. But don't just listen to the last person you spoke to. I think that people see through that. I mean, the Navarro example, I think, makes absolutely right. Why was this guy the point guy? Why did he lead the responsible for stock market going thousands of points one direction and then swerving in the other? It's like an accident waiting to happen, Governor.
Gentlemen, as always, prognostication of the highest level. Thank you guys both for joining us.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.